another episode of Movie Cast, where I am joined by Mr. Danny Martinez. How are you doing again?
Good, yourself.
Oh, I'm I'm okay too. Okay. So we will be talking about the Ironheart trailer. This is the trailer that people have been waiting for. That Disney was like, yeah, it's a show. We're gonna dump it every like 3 episodes once a week. And people are not happy about that. They wanted it to, treat it as if it's any other property. Well, we get
Yeah.
1 episode a week. Maybe start with the first two, and then give us that one. No, so we're getting like 3 episodes per week. People are very upset about that. I'm upset about that, and there really hasn't been any advertising when it came to this series. And a lot of people are upset. I have my own theories. Do you have any theories as to why you think that they're just dumping it?
I think they I mean my only theory is really just that they're listening to the fans, and I mean the wrong fans, like the ones that don't like change, and dare I say it, the ones that can be a bit racist because we have another black superhero. So they're listening to the fans and they think that the show's going to fail, so they kind of just didn't bother a lot with marketing and advertising, and I don't think they have a lot of faith in it. Yes, the show got delayed a couple times because we were supposed to have that the show like a year ago. So maybe they had some production issues and stuff like that, but like they just don't have faith in the show anymore, so that's why they're just dumping it on us.
I completely agree with that kind of concept, and I think going to add a little bit more into this. There was a certain policy that was passed that was like, oh, black people, Hispanic people, do not make them the shining star. And even though Ironheart, it's RiRi is a black female, even in the comics. You can't be like, oh, they're what do you call it? Changing
Replacing
the
Iron
race of the
Man.
character.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not true at all. And this is part of the comics where she is a black female. I even heard like some dumb things that was like Moon Girl and Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur was like, oh, they're changing the character, and I'm like, well, changing from what? That was the comics, sweetie.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I also feel like if there's a certain policy that they feel that they don't want to interrupt or go against, so it's like, here we did this, and we're not going to do it anymore. Because remember, there was another series that was wonderful, by the way, that I genuinely cannot remember, that had a trans character, and they took out the episode. And it was like, you knew the character was trans, but they didn't say trans, but you knew it was trans. So because of certain policies. So that's what I kind of feel is going on here. But anyway, they finally dropped the trailer. And what are your initial thoughts?
Excitement. I read Ironheart comics growing up. She hasn't been around that long, but I read the Ironheart comics and they were pretty good. I'm not like a huge fan, like not in the sense that like it's a bad character in any sense. I'm just saying that like I haven't read a lot of them, but like I thought it was great. I thought it was refreshing. I thought it was a good take on a character while using kind of like the same quote unquote powers and stuff. So like the trailer was exciting, and it really brought me back to those comic book days. It seemed like it was a really cool concept, and I think the art style looks great. The CGI looks great. It looks like they put some good money into it. I forget the actress's name, but she's a good actress as well. She does a good job,
Dominique.
especially she did great in Black Panther too. So like I don't see what the problem is. I was excited for it. I liked it a lot. So I'm definitely gonna binge it.
It is kind of cool that they're adapting such a newish comic book that came out in 2016. So that, again, it's very fresh. It's its own comic book. They didn't change anything once again. And my immediate thoughts was, oh, this is exciting. I wish that we got more marketing, beforehand.
Mhm.
So we can really build up to something amazing. It is, and again, I didn't like the fact that it was just dumped. But RiRi Williams is a continuation from Wakanda Forever,
Mhm.
right? Was that the right one? Yes, Wakanda Forever. Which basically follows RiRi right when she got dropped home to Chicago from being in Wakanda and, help building kind of that technology. that she did that helped, defeat and help that nation of Wakanda. And now that she's returned home to Chicago, she kind of thought that she would have that same kind of fanfare, or at least a celebration for all of her work that she did. It's really interesting because I feel within the MCU universe, they know who Iron Man is, they know who Thor is, they cheer for them. Did you see the thing with the Depression? What was the Thunderbolts, for example?
Yeah.
And you know how they was like, yeah, Thunderbolts, you did the good job. Remember how everybody was applauding them and thanking them in the streets? RiRi kind of thought she would get the same kind of congratulatory reception when she returned home, and no one knew who she was. And that kind of broke her heart, because it's like, I did all of this and you don't even know that I did it. So remember, she had an internship. So we're back in Chicago, essentially, where she is studying in MIT, which is weird because MIT, so she lives in Chicago, sorry. She's in MIT, which is in Boston. I believe I have that correct. Right. So she is in Boston, and it opens up very quickly. She walks into Desperado's Pizzeria. Something very simple, but we've always seen like there's been a cover for something that's really going on. And there is a lovely man, Red Hood, who we'll get into later, who was like, yeah, she goes into the elevator, and all of a sudden it stops. It's smoky, it's smoggy. You have 3 minutes to, figure out this code, get the mask, and you'll be all right. Or else you'll just suffocate and die because you're going to run out of air, and the air is unbreathable. So that, instead of like establishing the character in terms of like a monologue or anything else, how did you feel about the immediate action in that sequence?
I thought it was cool, and that's actually, I should have mentioned that before, is that it seems like it's got a lot of cool action. I really like the design of the hood. I am interested how that's going to play out, because it's kind of like a supernatural-ish type character versus a very technological type character. So I'm wondering how the dynamic's going to be with that, with like the back and forth with the both of them. Because I don't think, I'm trying to think on top of my head, I don't really think anything's been done like that with Iron Man. He's fought, he's obviously fought some villains with like some cool high tech stuff, but like nothing supernatural. So I'm interested in where that goes. Which is why, by the way, I have Mephisto confirmed on there, because I'm actually kind of excited and hoping that Mephisto is actually in this show. It's all just rumors, but the Hood has his involvement with Mephisto before, so I'm kind of hoping they at least do a little name drop or something.
Well, there was somebody in the distance in the shadows. It was like, hey.
Also, Sacha Baron Cohen is confirmed to be a secret character on the show. No one knows who he's gonna be, and he could look like Mephisto if he wanted to.
Well, he was confirmed this is how long this show has been in production. He's been confirmed as Mephisto. No, it wasn't like official, but it was like semi-official. Well, we knew, but we didn't know. There was no announcement, but we knew that he was going to be Mephisto. There were set photos, I believe, that was released 15,000 years ago that kind of had him, and they had Red Hood as well. And that, set photos are so different than once you see it on the big screen when it's actually done with production, where it was like, whap, whap, whap. But we've seen that kind of before.
Yeah, sometimes those costumes look really stupid and weird when you see him in just like set photos, but when you actually see him like on television, they clean it up and they CGI it, or they just, they mess with the color or saturation and stuff, and it starts to look great. So yeah, don't trust set photos all the time.
No, because there was another one, the Kamala Khan, the Miss Marvel. Remember when we saw the set photos? It was like, oh, she looks like a small child in a costume. What is this? It was terrible. So kind of moving on from that, what's really fascinating and interesting is that she obviously is able to break the code in less than the 3 minutes, but it's interesting. It wasn't so much about her getting the mask. She was able to override the system and force open the elevator doors. So she's able to see things that, here's what you're supposed to do, but she's able to work around that, which further shows her intelligence, is why she gets MIT. But this is, as you stated before, we get the introduction into the hood. And what was really fascinating with kind of the monologue was that, she's waiting for someone to say, hey, you're great, you're amazing, to recognize the greatness that's in her. But with Red Hood, he was basically saying you have to take that greatness. You have to demand that people notice that you exist. And that was like really great kind of advice for her, because I believe that it works on on different scales in terms of, yes, you're really great and you're really smart, but there are so many more people who are just as smart as you. And then also, we all know the theory of, especially when you're a person of color, you have to work twice as hard to get half as far. Mm-hmm. So while that's not said, and you have a Hispanic, Anthony Ramos, Hispanic, and RiRi, who's a Black woman, kind of saying that, it has a different meaning to say if this was a Black Widow character. So
actually,
yeah.
Now that you mention it, I'm sorry, with the Black Widow thing, I think that also speaks very much of like the toxic fandom that Marvel in general can have. Is just like, it seems like Black and Hispanic characters are never good enough to be a replacement or to be a better version of whatever character they're replacing. Because you look at Anthony Mackie and Captain America. Nobody, well, not nobody, but like a lot of people say, no, that's not Captain America. He's just Falcon with red, white, and blue. Or if you look at RiRi and it's like, no, that's not Iron Man. That's a ripoff or something. But nobody batted an eye when Yelena became the new Black Widow.
Look at you, dropping bombs. The truth bombs. Yes, I completely agree with that. That is a wonderful assessment. And this is what you've heard the phrase, they're a DEI hire. And it's like, what? This comic existed.
How was it DEI when it existed? Yeah.
What? They even did that with Miss Marvel. Remember with the Marvels? Mm-hmm. Oh, these are just women replacements. I'm like, what? But remember, they was rooting and they wanted a team up of all females when it came to, what was it, Avengers Endgame? Because remember, there was that small section where it was kind of, what was it, Miss Marvel, I think Shuri, Black Widow. No, Black Widow was already dead, but it was somebody else. It was like 3 women in there. It was like, oh, this is amazing. We need this.
Valkyrie was there.
But then when it came, yeah. But when it came time for an actual movie, this is GI. What? So yeah.
Well, I don't think people reacted well to that either. To that scene, a lot of people were just like, "Oh, it felt forced. There's no reason for all those women to like power up together and stuff." And I'm just like, dude, like they have to represent the women just as much as the men. Like, and it was like a freaking minute and a half scene. Like, it's not that big of a deal. So, a lot of people they just look for things to hate, and I don't get it.
Which is really funny because the MCU kind of set it up where some of the strongest characters are actually women. We had
Captain Marvel,
Brie Larson's character, Captain Marvel, and we had, remember, I know everybody hates Secret Invasion, but the girl who played, oh my gosh, the one who was basically Queen of Dragons and from Game of Thrones. So remember, she had the ability to, and so is Scarlet Witch. So it's just fascinating to me. It's like the strongest of them was like, no, it's DI. But anyway, moving on. What was very interesting was that she is back at MIT. She's doing her little college thing, right? And her goal is essentially to be great, to have a legacy, right? It's not something for profit. It's to create and to invent for greatness. And everything was just not going well. It was remember she kind of was the explosion a little bit at the MIT lab. And this was really interesting was the teacher said, MIT will humble you. And I thought what was fascinating about that is it's just like that Paramore song, Ain't It Fun? Where you're like the big fish in the small pond where she came from. It was like, oh, everybody's, oh, I'm so great. Yay, yay, yay. But once you step into the bigger world of MIT, well, all they do is recruit greatness. You're kind of like the little fish in the big pond. So he did say MIT will humble you. Mm-hmm. Well, he didn't say he will humble you, but he was basically saying you're not the only great one we have here. Mm-hmm. So it was an interesting balance where it was like, yeah, you're great at what you do, and no one's saying that. But you have to learn and work within the greatness of other people as well. which should be fascinating. And it is a blow to the ego. So then kind of after that, we learn that she, her work in Wakanda, she considered an internship. Remember, she can't exactly say, I was with Wakanda. And Shuri, even though Shuri and all of them was like on the campus, so cute. So the thing was, she wanted to build something that was undeniable. And what is fascinating with Red Hood, and we'll get into the Red Hood character, is the fact that he recognizes greatness, but at the same time, I kind of feel that he is manipulating certain situations in terms of he can give her everything that she wants. I can't get rid of this thing on the screen. I am trying to with all of my might. He is able to basically provide her with the space and the ability to create the suit that she wants, but at the same time they have no money, and in order for them to get money, she has to partake in nefarious dealings, which is stealing basically. So what did you think about that, of her basically becoming a career criminal, but it's for a purpose? It's not like, hey, I'm bored, I want to be a criminal.
Well, I mean, yeah, sure, for a purpose. I mean, but a lot of villains in comic books or even translated in movies and stuff, that's kind of the way they're portrayed, is that a lot of them don't have a choice. They have to do this to like make ends meet, or because they need to support their family, or they need to, in this case, support her career and kind of prove a point and stuff like that. I still like that dynamic, because what it is that now she's in that bigger pond now, so she kind of has to prove herself. And I think it's gonna kind of how do you say, I don't even know how to put it. She's gonna realize that like she needs to do right and not fall into like the stereotypes and not fall into the influences that kind of make her doubt herself. And it sounds like she's gonna start doubting herself throughout the show, because she thought she was this big thing, but she's kind of not. And of course, she can't admit that she helped out, with this Ironheart suit and Wakanda and all that stuff. So she's kind of just like, what is it, between a rock and a hard place type of thing. So it's going to be really interesting for her to kind of like be conflicted with trying to be good, but also trying to prove herself. And she may just stray the wrong way, which is cool. It's a good way to develop a character.
Right. And then going off of that, that's kind of what her friends say. We do see she has a friend that I don't know if this is the hologram that she ends up creating, but there's a couple of friends that she has. If I can find the picture. But basically, there's a couple of friends that she has that says the same thing. And there is someone that, the police do arrive and knock on the door. So she is getting found out. She is getting in trouble. In the middle of that, she is making a lot of creations because of the money that she is able to get. We even have a scene where she is essentially dancing with all of the money. If I can find that, that would be amazing. But basically, there's a scene where she's dancing with all of the money. So it is that balance of like a quick reward so that she can accomplish something. And you're right. A lot of the times that we have with these characters, and that's what makes any kind of character good, is they have to balance between, what's moral, but what is the overall picture that they're trying to accomplish. And I do like that fact. We have here, which, nope, that's that. I believe this is an actual, remember she creates one of the, she has an invention that she does create, but I think she's an actual real girl, that woman there.
Huh? What do you mean?
But, okay, so you know that
RiRi. The hologram thing you're talking about.
The hologram, yes.
Yeah.
So she is able to do that. Which, is basically no different than probably a Jarvis.
Yeah.
In this world, which is something else.
Which will be a change too, by the way, because in the comic, her version of Jarvis is actually Tony Stark. It's an AI version of Tony Stark in her suit, kind of like mentoring her and stuff, which is kind of cool.
That I don't want that at all. I'm so happy they changed that. That would just be too much. Oh my gosh. That would be so much. But yeah, I do appreciate that part. But we do have that conflicting thing that she does have. The police do show up. She is sitting there um with the money. One of her friends said, you know, this isn't a path that you really want. You could either end up in jail or dead. So, and you know how that tends to go. So kind of
Mhm.
speaking more about what we can expect in this overall. What we do know is that Riri obviously returns back to MIT, but it's not kind of like, as I stated before, the fanfare that she wants. And because she is using and stealing, not steal, but using without permission the resources of MIT, she does end up getting kicked out. So that is another roadblock for her, you know, where she is trying to do good and trying to prove herself, but she is failing in all of her classes because she is taking so much time on creating inventions. That does
Mhm.
end up getting her kicked out. The reason why she needs the money is because she's no longer able to use their resources anymore. So that's when the Red Hood is like, opportunity, I'm knocking. So that is what ends up happening. But the Red Hood character himself, we know is nefarious. We've seen him previously on what was the animated? Remember we had a bunch of animated. It was an animated one that we just saw a couple months ago. Oh, I can't
Marvel show. Last thing
remember.
we talked about was Spider-Man.
No, the animated one that had the one with the Watcher.
Oh, What If? Oh yeah, What If? That's
Yes.
right. With
So yes,
the Western Hood.
the Western Hood. So Western Hood was actually in here. As we do know, he is connected to Mephisto. Um, but on top of that, we do know that he uses magic as well.
Mhm.
So we're gonna get a lot of, I guess, science and magic
Mhm.
would be both because she's the technology base and he's more of the science base. So that should be a really fascinating take as well with this. So I guess overall, were there any other thoughts that you wanted to bring up with this entire series?
I No, not really. I think the trailer was really well done, and it
Mm-hmm.
portrays a lot of what to expect with Riri, and a lot to expect with like the action and adventure of the show itself. I just again, they need to step it up with the marketing stuff, but I think that's also kind of dying down because they've also revealed that they're kind of going to take a step back on like how much product that they put out there in TV shows and movie wise. So I kind of feel like they're just letting things go to the wayside at this point. But yeah, it
Mm-hmm.
still looks good. I'm excited for it.
I am completely excited for it as well. We do get some of the action features with the suit. The suit for me looks amazing. Um,
It looks
so
heavy.
what we did
It
see,
looks tough. Like it looks cool.
it looks nice and thick. So yes, the see we got some of that there. That looks really great. So I am very impressed with that. We have some more over here, which would see her kind of going into a car. That's always nice to see. And we do have a lot of what looks like to be establishing. It does show that she has like friends, and she's a fully
Hey,
developed character. Yeah.
since you got that picture up, don't she look like Moon Girl?
She does. Aren't
I
you like
really
the
feel
comic?
like
Did
I
you
really
ever
feel like they're
interact?
gonna introduce her.
I don't know if they'll continue with the story because it's like DEI policies. We don't want that
True,
anymore.
probably they'll give up on it.
So that could have been like the thing that remained that they just didn't take out. But I don't know if we're getting like a live action Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. And then to do a Devil Dinosaur would be fascinating. But I don't think we would do that. But she could like make an appearance.
Yeah,
What's her name?
sure.
Is her name Luna? It's Luna,
Hmm.
right? I believe it's
Hmm.
Luna.
Hmm.
So it could be like a little Luna in there. That would be fascinating. I wish. But we have yet to find a company that can stand up with some balls. So overall,
Yeah.
I think it looks fascinating. I look forward to how Mephisto plays into this. if we actually get a Mephisto? How would you want him to play into this? Because we do know that it was Mephisto who gave, what would it be? Like a, oh, goodness gracious, it's a stone, but it's not
For the
the
hood.
Affinity Stones. Yeah, to the hood.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that he would be involved with Mephisto. But do you feel that RiRi is the character that you would want to interact with Mephisto?
I mean, sure. They can come up with something. It's like I mentioned before. It's an interesting dynamic of technology versus magic type of thing, which would be cool.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Mephisto a lot of the time too. You don't beat Mephisto in the comics really with hand to hand combat. It's usually like loopholes and tricking him and just a lot of deception and stuff like that. Because he is like practically pretty much the devil. So you kind of got to play him at his own game. So RiRi would be smart enough to kind of deal with him that way. Also, I kind of see it as that if they introduce him, they would introduce him in maybe like the last or second to last episode, kind of reveal that he's actually the real big bad, and maybe she has to do something to kind of trick him or whatever it might be. Or they can just literally just name drop him and maybe show him a little bit. And my guess was like if they were going to continue with more seasons, they would probably have him more focused for continual seasons afterwards. But you're right. I don't see them continuing after this because they already did a poor job as it is marketing this.
And then also what was interesting, and let me know if this is a switch from the comics, it's the hood itself that is magical. It allows him to tap into that dark side. Because I know in the What If series, it was like a stone.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's the hood. I don't remember the history too much, but it's the hood that's at least I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
There's too many hoods because I was like Red Hood, and then he wears a red cloak, so I'm like, it's Red Hood. And you're like, no, it's
and then there's
wrong.
Cloak and Dagger too. Cloak and Dagger probably confuse you as well.
Bring back Cloak and Dagger. That was a good show. Runaways was terrible, but bring back Cloak and Dagger. Yeah, overall, I like this. I think this is really strong entry that, Marvel is going to be too afraid to give another season to, probably, most likely. But I like it.
I would
But
like
we first have to see what's in it. So we have to first see what's going on. I like the fact that the hood's name is actually Parker Robbins, and it was like a gang that he does run. So we're gonna see more of the little gangies running around. It's like a gang that he runs, where it's basically made up of miscast. We kind of heard it many times before. I'm a miscast. The world doesn't acknowledge me, and it's like I'm gonna be acknowledged now because I'm gay. So we do have that. And the whole goal is to basically rise to the top. That's where you see the money, where it's like and it's not like for anything, I'm going to be able to have this and this and this now because I have the money to do so. Yeah, so this looks really interesting. So we're going to go to Boston, back to Chicago, because she gets expelled from school. So we get to see some of Chicago and parts of Boston that we already see. So I guess that's everything then. So I have been your host, Dana. This has been Mr. Martinez. Any final thoughts for you, sir? He's just saying peace.
Please show up.
Okay, so we will see more Sacha. And if they do a good job, would you want a Mephisto spinoff?
Yeah, they could bring him in for like the Vision Quest thing that they're doing, or if they do another, let's say Agatha or Scarlet Witch stuff going on, it would make sense to introduce him because Mephisto had a heavy hand in a lot of things that went on with Scarlet Witch. Or he could do something with Spider-Man as well because well, I guess they already did it, but the whole everybody forgets Peter Parker type of thing in the comics, it wasn't Doctor Strange, it was Mephisto that kind of did that whole spell thing, but they could still work their magic somehow. I don't know, but they could fit him in a lot of different character stuff.
Yeah, that would be real fun. And then we have the Secret Wars in the Doomsday. Does he play a role in either comic?
Not at all.
Okay. I think it gets a little confusing when you start mixing all these different characters with different powers. Because I'm pretty sure maybe magic can trump whatever Doomsday is doing. Not Doomsday. Dr. Doom?
Dr. Doom.
I don't know how that works.
Well, Doom's a magic user too, so he very much knows what he's doing.
Okay. So then, lovely. Yay. So then that has been everything. We look forward to when this actually happens. And because they've been announcing this since I think 2023. So we will see what happens. If it's worth it. And also, hi everyone. It's by Ryan Coogler, who has done
Oh
amazing.
Yes.
Executive produced by Mr. Ryan Coogler, who of course everyone would know now from Sinners. He's in a whole bunch of other things. He also did the original, the first Black Panther, which was then the second Black Panther. And we all know Sinners, and everybody's like, oh my God, Sinners. So this should be amazing as well. And he's doing Eyes of Wakanda, which is an animated series. He's an executive producer on that. And of course, everyone now wants him for Blade. But he was like, no, I want to be free. So we will see what happens with Blade. It's been 10 years.
Wasn't he originally hired for Blade? Like in the beginning for Blade production?
Oh,
I could have sworn he was hired for it.
See, because this is what I don't like about a lot of film studios, not just Marvel. They will announce the project without a script, without anyone attached.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, why? I'm the kind of weird person that's like, let me announce it when we have a full script done and we have a cast.
Video games do the same thing. They do the same
thing.
Do. You won't see a video game for like 5-6 years after announced because they don't have nothing ready yet.
And that's what happened with GTA. Didn't it get pushed to 2026?
Oh, well, GTA is running over 10 years already, but everybody already assumes GTA is going to be in production right after the game comes out. Because when GTA 5 comes out, as soon as it comes out, everybody's like, okay, when's GTA 6 coming out? There's already that assumption that it's going to come out. But like, for example, something like the Wolverine game, that was announced quite a while ago. And the only reason why we know that it's still in production and it's actually making good progress is because the information and the assets and actual gameplay got leaked online. And it's actually hurting them right now.
Jesus, I don't get it. It's crazy to me. This is why, not to say I like one thing more than another, there was a director who is now head of a film studio of the DCs, that said, we're not going to announce anything until we actually have a script.
Makes sense.
So it's not that hard. Make your plans. Just have us to have a script. Remember Wonder Twins? They announced Wonder Twins, and then all of a sudden the next day or the next week was canceled.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've heard the argument that executives, they like to do that stuff and including the game industry as well, but they like to announce that stuff ahead of time before anything is actually made, is because they want to see how much hype gets built to justify whether they should continue or not. And I'm just like, if you think you're making a good product, make a good freaking product and just do it. Like, you don't have to ask the fans if you think this is a good product or not. If you think it is, make sure that it's a good product and release it. That's it.
Exactly. Because I'm pretty sure Guardians of the Galaxy had zero fanfare.
Even
when they announced it was
a comic book fan, I was like, Guardians of the Galaxy. I was like 5 years old when those comics came out. Like, why would you make Guardians of the Galaxy? That's stupid. And that's one of my favorites.
One of the best trilogies. I cried. And the rat thing wasn't even real, and I'm crying over a puppet. The bunny died, and I'm crying over a bunny. And the hamster. So, yeah, on paper it doesn't work, but once you see it, it worked. So I completely agree. So I guess that is our final thoughts, and we will see you next time with something else, more trailers, another movie, who knows. But I've been your host, Dana, joined by Mr. Danny Martinez, and I'll see you later.